So when I was about 14, I watched Good Morning Vietnam by Robin Williams. Yeah, you know that film, Good Morning Vietnam? And I fell in love with radio. So I went to college and I studied radio. And then I realized that in radio, people are assholes. And I realized I didn't want to work in radio anymore. So I skipped out of that. And then I went to work in the charity sector. And I worked there for a whole year. And then I realized they want you 24/7, 365. So I got out of that as well. And I was broke and I was young and I went to Dublin from Meath. It wasn't that far, but I went there. And I started working in a bank. And I got a mortgage and all that kind of stuff. And I ended up in banks for 16 years. I was working in a bank. And this was a guy who loved radio working in a bank. And I didn't know how I ended up working there. So about 6 years ago, I did what many of you will be doing, and I pivoted career. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. So I went back and I studied leadership, and I studied coaching, and I studied strategy and innovation, and I kind of reinvented myself. And now I do coaching and I do leadership training for banks. So that's good. You'll never get away from the banks. Once they get you, that's it. Okay? So that's why I'm here. But I just wanted to tell you a bit about where I've come from, because I've made lots of career decisions as well. I've changed things. I've had good bosses and bad bosses. Yeah? Anybody here have really good bosses in their time? Anybody here have a voice? Yes. Anybody here have a hand if I asked you to put it up? Yeah, you see? Right, so I've had good bosses and bad bosses, so much so, and I think bosses have such an effect on us that I actually started a podcast called the Good Boss, Bad Boss podcast to talk about good bosses and bad bosses, because people spend their lunch breaks talking about their bosses, and I thought it would be good to put that into a podcast, be a bit of crack. And sure enough, a few podcasts later, it's going well. What I'm here to talk to you today is about Arrow. It's all about goals and motivation, and I've got about minus 20 minutes to do that in, okay? So we're going to do it in 10. I'll try my best to be brief, but I'm not known for being brief. I'm known for talking a lot. I just want to embarrass the people standing at the back lurking. You know what I mean? These are the people who come into nightclubs and they go, I'll just stay for one drink, but if there's nobody good looking, I'm out of here. They're all at the back, okay? I would invite, oh look, 2 of them are gone. We were the best looking people here anyway. Yeah, so the lurker, well done to the lurkers who stayed. Congratulations. You can take a seat if you want. I promise this will be entertaining if nothing else. So I'm going to talk to you about goals and motivations, and I put that in the context of Arrow. But let me give you a bit of background first. Time is finite. We cannot stretch time. There is only 24 hours in a day. There is only 60 minutes in an hour. There is only 60 seconds in a minute. Yeah? Everybody agree on that? We don't have any deniers on that one there? Any Trump supporters? No, okay. So time is finite. 3.7, nearly 3.8 million. What do you think that figure represents? Nope. That is the minutes of work in and around over 40 years you have. You have 3.8 million minutes of work to do. That's it. And you could clock that down. You could put that in the corner of your laptop. Just beep. Oh, brilliant. I've only got 3.7. You could literally do that. If we're all working for about 40 years, we've got 3.8 million minutes of work to do. Everybody in and around, depending on your shift work, is 420 minutes in a working day. 420 minutes in a working day to achieve something in your day. So time is finite. Today, your time is precious. And you might be thinking to yourself, why am I wasting it listening to you? But your time is precious. Everything you do in work is precious. Everything you do in your life is precious in relation to time. We don't get that back. So we need to look at other things that we can do to expand what we do with ourselves. And that's where we bring in energy. Energy expands. So if you go back all those millennia ago to the Big Bang, there was nothing. And I'd do a Stephen Hawking impression, but it wouldn't be PC. But there was nothing. Okay? And next thing, there was a Big Bang explosion. And everything heated up beyond belief and started to expand out into the universe. And it expanded and expanded. And as it got further away from the Big Bang, it began to cool down and formed planets. And those planets formed life. And that became us. So we're actually just expanding energy, but we just can't see it because we're doing it right now. We're just expanding all the time, and the universe is expanding as we speak. So the energy that you brought today, that you came into the room with, is the expanding energy of the universe. Can you feel it? It is there. Everything we do is the expanding energy of the universe. Did you know that you're related to him? You are, and you're related to her, and her, and her, because we're all from the same energy. We're actually all stardust, just expanding through the universe, going to the Jobs Expo, on our way through the universe. And that's the energy we bring to this today. And when we think of it at that level, we kind of go, God, already I feel like I could do anything. So it's no wonder that Stephen worked in radio and then charity and then banking and then changed. Because that only took a minute amount of energy. A minute amount of energy compared to the energy that's actually available to me all the time. And that's what I do to renew myself in relation to where am I going to, oh God, how am I going to get the energy to do that? I'm like, actually it's abundant. It's abundant. It's in the universe. It's around me. I can use it anytime I want if I tap into it. So energy expands. And we have to think about our energy in terms of our physical energy. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough exercise? Are you using that gift of physicality that you've been given? Your emotional energy. Where do you spend your emotional energy? Who do you spend your emotional energy with? Who drains your emotional energy? The good bosses and the bad bosses. Bad bosses drain your energy, yeah? Good bosses give you energy. Our mental focus. Where are we going to put our mental focus? The givers and takers in our life. You know, the people who kind of say, will you do me a favor? Will you do me a favor? Will you do me a favor? Will you do me another favor? Will you do me a favor? Will you do me another favor? Can I have a favor? And they never seem to return the favor. And they take your mental focus, and what you're doing is you're working for them, except you're not getting paid. So well done. Are you going to do yourself a favor and put your mental focus on something that you want? And then the last part of our energy is our spiritual energy. This is all written down in a book called How to Be Excellent at Everything. Tony Schwartz wrote the book, and I trained under Jean Gomes, who was a co-author of that book. And it's good stuff. It's very simple, but they're the 4 things you need to bring your energy to, and that energy is available to you all the time. But you have to start making choices about how you spend your energy. Stop blaming everybody else about how you spend your energy. You spend it. Nobody else gets control of your energy wallet to spend your energy. That's yours. You decide what you do with your energy. So today, I want us to embody this quote from Albert Einstein. To have a better life, we must keep choosing how we are living. Everything is your fault. You are at fault for everything in your life right now. Own it. This is the moment where you can take over and say, okay, what did I do to cause this situation? Or what did I not do to cause this situation? Or what should I do to get out of this situation? What am I going to do to be different in this situation? How am I going to be different? All of these things are choices we get to have every day. If we're in a bad relationship, we get to make a choice. Do you want to stay in that relationship and moan about it to your friends who are sick listening about it? Or are you going to dump him? Or her, by the way. Or them, or whatever the preferred pronoun is. So you get to have that choice. Anybody been in a relationship too long? Where it lasted too long? Well, I suppose you didn't put up your hands when I literally just asked you to put up your hands. You're probably not going to do that. So, okay. Oh, she put up her hand by accident down there. That's cool. And now she's shocked. Everybody knows now. You weren't listening, so it's fine. So anyway, we'll get you up in a minute to talk about your bad relationship. So we have to start choosing and start thinking that everything is my fault. Okay? That's the harsh way of putting it. But everything is my choice is the nicer way of putting it. And arrow, which is what I want to talk to you about, is just how I put our context in relation to setting goals. Because when we start to set goals, we're starting to make choices, okay? We don't want to sleepwalk through our lives. letting other people make choices for us, letting other people, handing over our energy wallet and letting them take withdrawals from the energy wallet. We want to start taking control of our own lives. And I have just put this together from various different studies and all this kind of stuff, Victor Vroom and kind of Hertzberg and Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all these other things that you can all read about on HBR, but I've just tried to condense it down into a few simple things. Before you start on any journey or goal, and I presume because you're here at the Jobs Expo, you do have a goal, yes? And it's to either change career, get a career, do something differently, yeah? Is that correct? Yes. Brilliant, that was noise coming from you. It's amazing. Okay, now there's energy, right? Okay, I'll dial it up to 11 now, right? Okay, so we're all here for a goal, and all I want you to do is think about how you would frame that goal in terms of arrow, okay? So the first bit of arrow is ability. And ability is about IQ, TQ, and EQ. So IQ is the intelligence that we are born with and that grows up to about the age of 17, by the way, and then it fixes, would you believe? We don't get any more intelligent after the age of 17. They've done the studies on this. And there's a really interesting thing about IQ is what percentage of toddlers are genius level? Anybody? Throw out a number there. What percentage of toddlers? 5%. 100%. Closer. 97% of toddlers in controlled studies are at genius level. What's it when they're 10? 15%, 10%. It goes down to 60% of kids. So there's 60% of kids in primary school are at genius level in a controlled study that they've done over years. When you're 25, what does it drop to? 3%. We reversed the ratio. Oh, we knocked the bejesus out of the genius of our people. And we just sleepwalk into this. And what's happening in our brain there is we have 87 billion neurons we're born with. And those neurons have dendrites at the end, and they connect to our synapses. And it's a massive supercomputer we have here, and a thing called synaptic pruning happens. And basically, if we're not using it, we're losing it. So if you want your kids to learn a language, start showing them when they're a toddler different languages. Expose them to different languages when they're toddlers, because it's proven that they will pick it up easier later on in life if they've been exposed when they're toddlers. But the synaptic pruning fixes us then basically at about 17 in relation to our intelligence. But the good news is we're all pretty much at average intelligence. Otherwise, it wouldn't be average. That's statistics for you. Average intelligence is average, and the curve is great. So what happens is you get loads of people in the middle, and then there's like 5% here, 5% down here. That's the way it goes. So we all have the same IQ, pretty much. There's very few of us have greater IQ and less IQ. We all pretty much are starting on the same base. That's pretty good. The next one is TQ, and that's our technical intelligence. So these might be, in some companies, they call it competencies, yeah? Has anybody ever done a competency-based interview? Have you played that game? It's a good game, isn't it? Tell me about a time when you've worked in a team and there was conflict among the team members. Aha! I was on a spaceship. What? Just throw them out with something like that. No. TQ is your competencies, and these are the skills you get. So if you go to college, you get competencies. You get information, you get new things, and you get new skills. If you go and do an apprenticeship and you become a mechanic, you get a competence in relation to being a mechanic, and that's your TQ. So you can grow that. You can grow that constantly. In fact, you should always learn something new every year. You should constantly keep that going, because if you use it, you lose it. So keep using your synapses so you don't lose it. And the last one is EQ. Has anybody heard of EQ? Emotional intelligence. And here's the kicker. This is the most important one once we grow up and stop being adolescents. And adolescence finishes, by the way, some of the younger people here, it only finishes at about 25. Yeah, I know, it seems later. I was surprised at that as well. For men, it kind of finishes maybe sometime in and around 60. But that's good. You should always be young. No, adolescence is from kind of, the teenage years up until about 25, and then we start to really grow our emotional intelligence. And our emotional intelligence is our awareness of our own emotions, our management of those emotions, our awareness of the emotions of other people, and our management of that relationship. That's as simple as that. And it has been proved in many, many studies that people with high EQ outperform those with high IQ 70% of the time. 70% of the time. The top leaders in the world have high EQ. Some of them never went to college. Some of them never got the TQ. They learned it on the job. Some of them don't have a high IQ. Albert Einstein struggled in school. But what they had is EQ. They were able to relate to others. They were able to manage the relationships. So before you start on any goal, look at your ability in those 3 parts. But what I would say, and it's a passion of mine, look at your emotional intelligence and how you're relating to others in the chosen field you have. Who are you reaching out to? Who are you talking to? And how are you relating to those people? Because I guarantee you, if you relate to people well, you'll get a better outcome in your life in general. So do you have the ability in relation to the goal you want to achieve? I try to challenge myself every year to do something a bit different. So years ago it was a marathon, and I did it, and I struggled, and it was hard, and it seems too long, and no wonder the first guy who did a marathon died. Jesus. Right. Adventure races. Last year, in 2018, I always wanted to do stand-up comedy, so I said, feck it, I'll do it. So I've got 35 gigs, stand-up comedy gigs later. I went to Manchester and played in front of 250 people, and I was crapping myself. Do you know what I mean? It was mad, the pressure to make people laugh. It's easy here because you weren't expecting to laugh. I could have just went, anyway, TQ and IQ and EQ, blah, blah, blah. And you would have went, oh, that was grand. But the pressure to make people laugh was funny because I wanted to learn something new and put myself under extra pressure. So you should always try and learn something new, and it doesn't have to be in college. It can be just somewhere around you, and it gives you another opportunity to relate to people. So do you have the ability to achieve your goal? That's the first thing. Reward. Are you clear about the reward for the goal? I want to get a job. I just want a new job. I don't like the old job. That's not a reward. So that's running away from, not towards. If you're running away from something, what's your motivating factor? It's fear. It's regret. It's anxiety. They're not good things to build your career on. What are you going towards? What are you reaching out to achieve? What's the goal going to give you? What job is this job going to do for you? It's not just money either, by the way. You might want more money. More money is good. It facilitates a nice life and a lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. But actually, money as a motivating factor has been proved. Again, it's down the list. People don't leave jobs for money. 70% of the time, people leave jobs because they have a bad boss. Another reason why I started that podcast. 70% of the time, people leave because they have a bad boss. They don't leave for more money. So you need to figure out why you're going to the next job or why you're going to this next career move and make it a toward, not an away from. Does that make sense? What are you going to get from this? What's the reward you're going to get that's going to fulfill you? And that's not just going to be a fleeting thing, because a new job can be like a new car. It's only a new car for 6 months, isn't it? Oh, look, new car. And then soon it just becomes the car. Yeah? So a new job is just the new job for 6 months, and then it's the job. So you have to know what it's going to do for you. So is it going to give you a better lifestyle? What job does it do in relation to your lifestyle? So if it is money that you need, well, what job is that money going to do for you? Well, the money is actually going to give me more time with my kids, or the money is going to give me more opportunity to travel because I love traveling. Oh, well, in that case, you want a job that helps you travel more. Next thing, you've kind of got a real clear goal about that job. So you don't want to go into a job where they're not going to give you a lot of annual leave if traveling's the goal. Yeah? So you have to think about the reward really clearly. Recognition. Has anybody ever done any of these employee surveys where they talk about, in the last week, I have received praise? Any of those, yeah? And every boss is going, yeah, I praise them all the time. And every employee is going, never get a thank you from that. Yeah? That's what happens. Come in, sit down, look at that. Not lurkers, all the rest of you, take note. Okay, so praise is underrated as a tool, and it's free. So when was the last time you received a compliment? How do Irish people receive compliments? Oh, jeez. My mother, right? My mother she's an amazing She's got a great artistic ability in relation to, you know this, I don't even know what it's called, sugar icing, sugarcraft. There you go. I'm a terrible son. Okay, so sugarcraft, and she can do the most amazing things with, and she can make these photorealistic flowers, and she makes wedding cakes for people as a present for their wedding, you know? And so she will make this amazing thing that took her a month to do. She stayed in, you know, staying awake, you know, watching crappy TV while she's doing this stuff till 3 o'clock in the morning to deliver this cake. And the day of the wedding comes along and people go, oh my God, Doreen, that's amazing. And she goes, Jesus, nothing. And I'm like, that's Irish people for you. We don't take a compliment. So if you don't take a compliment, what would encourage the person to keep giving you a compliment? So if I say, that's a lovely top, I really like the way it matches that necklace that you're wearing. And that's true. That's a real thing. I'm not making that up. There you go. She said, thank you. That's the way you take a compliment. You just say thanks. But the one thing we're not doing is recognizing when we get recognition. When was the last time you did get recognition for doing a good job? And did you actually recognize it? So when was the last time somebody really appreciated you as a person? And did you recognize that they were appreciating you? Because it's a two-way street. They say you should give 5 to 1 in relation to praise. For every 1 element of critical feedback you're giving somebody, you're giving them 5 elements of praise. Yeah? That's kind of hard. And I used to run a large team where I had kind of like 75 staff. And what I did was every morning, the first thing I did, I had a diary in my email. The first email I got every single day was a reminder to write in my staff value appreciation book. And I would open the book, like Dumbledore or whatever the hell it was, and I would write something from the previous day I noticed about one of the 75. And that way I was able to build up a whole Bible of praise. And I wasn't allowed to write anything negative in it. I was only allowed to write good things in it. And the beauty of it was then when I had a one-to-one with that person, which might be 9 months later at that stage, I was able to actually sit down and go, do you know what I really like about you? This. And they would go, oh my God, you remember that? And it was so simple. But the amount of people who commented on it, and I didn't hide it, like it wasn't a secret thing. I used to say, this is where I write the good things about the staff. This is where I write the good things about the people I meet on a daily basis who I really appreciate working with. Why wouldn't I do that? That makes sense. I never miss an opportunity to tell somebody how brilliant they are nowadays, because you mightn't get that opportunity again. So go ahead and tell them, for God's sake. Use your mouth, like. What's it costing you? Tell them they're a brilliant friend. Are you friends? Tell, not now. Yeah, there you go. But you know, do it. Why not? Write a note. When was the last time somebody wrote a thank you card? They're brilliant. Because it's so unexpected to get something in the post these days. You know what I mean? If somebody helps you in your career, when I was changing out of banking and going into this, I wrote a few thank you cards to people, and they rang me up, and they were like, my God, I didn't realize I had that big an impact. And I was like, you really did. You did have that big an impact on me. You know, we need to tell people, when you know you're doing a good job in this goal you're trying to achieve, know what recognition looks like. Know that it's when your mother says, well done. Because some people's mother's opinion really matters to them, and it's true. Know that it's when your friends recognize it. Know that it's when your boss recognizes it. Fair enough if it's in your pay packet, if it's recognized in a bonus. But recognize recognition, because we're really bad at that. Opportunity. A lot of bosses complain about people not doing a good job, but the boss hasn't given the person the opportunity to do a good job. I can't do work that I don't know is there. Okay? Also in relation to a goal, another thing I ticked off my bucket list, and my bucket list is actually up on the web, and I'm ticking things off slowly. The next one is a triathlon. It's a bit of a struggle, but I've started. Do you know why? Because I want to do a triathlon for ages, right? And people are saying, you'd be well able for a triathlon. I'm like, yeah, look, I could swim the Atlantic as long as they put the end of a pool every 50 meters. Because like that's as far as I could swim. And next thing, it's my childhood asthma is back again. Like, do you know what I mean? I couldn't figure out how to breathe. You're talking to a guy who, when he went scuba diving, the scuba instructor kind of made him go back up and goes, you still can breathe. Because I've been holding my breath and wondering why I had a chest pain. You need to have the opportunity to do these things. So I always wanted to go skiing. And I realized I'm not giving myself the opportunity to go skiing by being nowhere with snow. so I had to book a flight and go skiing, yeah? I've been joking about it, but in relation to opportunity that you might be looking for in a job, is the opportunity around you? Have you put yourself in the right environment? You know? Do you hang around with people who are in the industry you want to be in? Have you talked to anybody in relation to that? Have you given yourself the opportunity to succeed in that? And opportunity is really important because that opportunity needs two things for a good opportunity. It needs to be a challenge, because if we have too easy a challenge, it's boring and we don't think it's valuable. If we have too hard a challenge, it's stressful and then we walk away from it. So we need challenge and we need support. So another key thing that we need to have when we go through Arrow is supporters. So we have a supporters here because the Bezies, so that's all good. But you need to identify your supporters for the opportunity that you have as well. So have you given yourself the opportunity, put yourself in the right environment, given yourself the right conversations to have? Is it a good challenge? Not too hard, not too easy. And have you identified your supporters? That's what you're looking to achieve, okay, when it comes to opportunity. Does that make sense? That makes less sense than the other thing that I asked made sense for sure. I can sense that. The challenge zone is where you want the opportunity. Willingness. Okay, are you willing to do this? A lot of the time, people take on a goal, but they haven't assessed their willingness. And there's a really easy way to assess your willingness when you want to try and achieve a goal. The 1 to 10 scale, universally recognized throughout the world and used in nightclubs everywhere. 1 to 10 scale. Yeah? Everybody knows what I'm talking about. 1 to 10. Yeah? There you go. Just dawned on a few people. So the 1 to 10 scale is, how willing am I to achieve this goal out of 10? Simple as that. So if you're looking for a new job, how important is it out of 10 that you get a new job? Is it 10? Is it 8? Is it 7? Is it 6? There are different scales. Like there was a time that I wanted a new job, but it was probably about a 4 compared to the other things that were important in my life at that time, like going out. That was really important for a while. I mean, the Vintners Association of Ireland owe me, because my 20s, my God, what I could have achieved. I do look back and go, what? They literally should have had a word with me and kind of, you know, you don't have to come to the pub all the time. You can do other things. Or, you know, playing computer games. You know, that's another thing. Like, you know, playing computer games till the birds are telling you to go to bed. You know, the birds are waking up going, are you still up? Jesus. You know, I've wasted so much time in my life on these things. So how willing was I to actually make good career decisions back then? I wasn't willing at all. Did I moan about the career I had and all the decisions I was making? Oh, yeah. Made plenty of that, because it was everybody else's fault, remember? My boss was a pain. The bank I worked for was a pain. Everything was a pain. I was grand, though. I was really motivated between the pub and the computer games. Or was it my fault, and was I not just willing at all? And had I known this and said, how willing am I out of 10 to sacrifice those various other things to make a change in my life? How willing are you out of 10? It's very simple. So has everybody here kind of got a goal in mind? Everybody here got a goal in mind. This is going to take audience participation. Okay. How willing are you out of 10 to achieve that goal? Be honest. Anybody here a 5? Yeah, we've got a 5. There you go. And a brave 5 as well. Thank you. You half put your fingers up. That's good. Anybody a 6? 6, 2 6s, 3 6s, and a yawn. Okay, that'll do. 7s. 7s. Yeah, we've got a few 7s. 7's a popular one because it's not too ambitious, but it's not too tardy. That's why we like 7. You know what I mean? It's not too much. I'm not being arrogant about it. 7s. 8s. Who's 8? 8 motivated. 8 motivated. 8 motivated. Yeah? Any 8s over here? 8s. 8s. 9s. 9s at the back. 9s. Now it's like an auction. 10s. Oh, we've got a few 10s. I would expect that, given that you came here and you were motivated to come here to do something about that. I would expect a few 10s and 9s. But you would be surprised at how many people say they want something, but when really asked about what it is, they'll go, Yeah, a bit more of a 4. And then you need to go to a values. Do you know values? Values are really important in our goals. Values are one of the most important things in our goals. I do a lot of coaching, and I was coaching a guy in a bank in England. And he worked for the bank in England for 13 years. And he just was so disengaged with work, so disengaged with everything. And I asked him, okay, well, talk to me about your values, talk to me about this. Wasn't getting anywhere. He was giving me the usual values. I mean, he was integrity, honesty, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. It just sounded bland, right? And next thing I said, look, tell me what you did on your holidays last year. This was a little while ago. And he goes, I went on an Occupy protest, an anti-capitalist protest in London. He spent his holidays from the bank at an anti-capitalist protest. And I went, okay, I just want to talk to you a little bit about values. Do you think your values are compatible with that of the capitalist bank you work for? And he went, oh yeah. And I said, what did you want to be when you were a kid? And he went, a policeman. And I went, oh, so you value justice? He said, yes. Started to make a bit more sense as to why he was so unhappy in his work, yeah? Now, at the end of that, he decided one of the bigger values he had was security, and he decided to stay in the bank because his salary was that big. But I did tell him that he was going to have to settle his value of justice because it wasn't feeding him. So we need to know, is this true to our values? Because your values rule every day of your life. Every day of your life, your values are ruling you. So what are the barriers to achieving your goal? This is another thing. I'm not going to go through it now, but you need to write down 3 barriers that are, and they have to be you, by the way. Remember, we're at fault for everything. 3 things you have been letting get in your way. Not 3 things that other people are doing. 3 things that you have been letting get in your way. I'm always making excuses that I don't have the time. Excuses can be a barrier. I'm not putting myself in situations where I can have good conversations with people who are talking about this. That's what barriers are. Start making all the barriers yours. Start owning your barriers. The next thing is habits. How long do I have? I've minus whatever, yeah. Yeah. Grand, okay. Right, so we've infinite time because the universe is expanding. Okay, it's grand. Right. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is habits, because success is based on habits, okay? Any great inventor, you only ever hear about their great invention. And there might be a few prolific inventors who have many great inventions, but what they did loads was they created a habit of going through the process of invention, okay? Habits are really important. Habits rule our life. Did you know that 95% of the time we're just running unconscious programs in our brain? 95% of the time. Who drove here? Yeah? Hands up. Who's driven along a motorway and kind of went, oh Jesus, there's my turn off. I don't even remember the last 5 minutes. That's because you're running an automated program called driving. There was a time when you were learning to drive when somebody said, now just put your left foot down, move your left hand, and keep your hand on the steering wheel and just check your mirrors. And you went, stop it! It's too much! Men didn't do that. Oh, I didn't do that. I knew how to drive since I was a baby. I've been driving tractors since I was a baby. Yeah. So that's what happened to us. We panicked. And then somebody said, and now do a hill start. Use a handbrake. Jesus. And next thing, it's just an unconscious program. An unconscious program where you get in, you turn on the key, you're gone. You're gone. And that's why most crashes happen, by the way, because of inattention. Because their brain is just running an unconscious program and we're not paying attention. And then some Lutherman decided to throw in smartphones into the mix. So we're all going to kill each other. Right. So how to make a habit? We get a cue. Drivers in the room. You're driving along the motorway, but you are not the driver. You're the passenger. The cue is driving along behind a car. The car in front is starting to creep up. Yeah? The person driving the car is driving really close to the back of that other car, and you're kind of starting to get a bit, well, I wouldn't drive that close to the car, but I'm the passenger. It's not my job. Yeah, yeah. So you're getting a bit anxious now, and your brain is starting to run a program. And next thing, the brake lights in the car in front go on. They go red, and your foot goes, what's happened? Your brain has run the unconscious program, and it has moved your leg. That's how powerful these 95% unconscious moments are. And then what happens is this other person who's not you, doesn't actually put their foot on the brake. So next thing what happens is the process is ruined. And you start to get angry for no reason. And this is why cars are little bubbles of anger. Is because you're going, why did you brake? You should brake. And next thing you're going, well, yeah, I'm driving, you drive, get out, go in the back, go in the boot, wherever, I don't care. That's what happens. Yeah? Because the process that our brain expected, we didn't get the reward. Because remember, when we put our foot on the brake, the reward is the car slows down. We put our foot on the nothing, we didn't get a reward. And what we do is we repeat that, and that's how we learn to drive. We repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. We can do the same. We can do the same in our goals. Get up every day. Look at the 420 minutes, remember? 420 minutes that are available to you to do something about your job, and start using it. And have a process. Get habits. Go to the gym every day. You'll do that by creating a habit. Pack your gear bag the night before. Have it at the front door. That's a process. It soon becomes just what you do. But make it a habit and a process. So if you said to yourself, oh God, I'd love to work in pharma, but I want to talk to somebody. I want you to ring 3 people every day. 3 people every day. Make it a habit to call people. Get used to talking to people. But I'm no good at communication. No, humans are amazing at communication. You haven't created a habit of communicating, but you are amazing at communication. If 2 people are in a room, even if they're not talking to each other, they're communicating. Yeah? So how to make a habit really quickly. Pick one goal at a time. If you changed one thing a month, you would have 12 changes in your life over a year. That's amazing. 12 changes in your life over a year. 21 days it takes to make a habit. So do it for 21 days. Don't worry about a day. If you miss it, just pick it up and go again. Be specific about your goals. You've heard of SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, trackable. Just keep it specific for a start. As in, I will do this. I will call 2 people every week in relation to the job I want. I will send out 3 CVs. I will do this. I will be specific and write it down. Focus on the outcome. Remember the reward we talked about. What's the job that this job is going to do for me? What's it going to give me? Because if I go for that thing that said, well, if I get this job, it'll give me this money so I can go traveling, then I can start thinking about the outcome being me being on a beach in Thailand. That's much better than me being on a commute somewhere. State the positive. Remember I talked about away from and toward? Don't act out of fear. Act out of positivity, going towards something, some reward, some outcome. If X, then Y. If you fall off the wagon, have an if-then statement. It's a really simple thing. If this happens, then I will do this. So for instance, if I stop into the petrol station and buy jellies, I won't eat them straight away. I'll put them in the glove box and try and get through the next 2 minutes without eating one. You're more likely not to eat them then, because you have an if-then statement. So what I do, I had a bit of a penchant for jellies. I used to go into the petrol station. I won't go into it because I haven't got time. Go into the petrol station, I'd buy jellies, and then I'd eat them. Fine. But now what I do is I buy the jellies, so I might have failed, and then I go, but they go straight in the glove box. And I've taken away that. And then I've disrupted the process, the old habit. I've disrupted the old habit. Bank the successes. Start celebrating the good things you're doing. You're all brilliant people. Remember, you're stardust. You're expanding in the universe, and you've done great things. Start appreciating and recognizing the good things you've done. And if you can't recognize it, ask your best friend to recognize it in you. Go through that session where they just give you good things about you. One day at a time. Stop trying to kind of build up a career in one day. Just take one day at a time to build your career. Choose your supporters wisely. It's really important we surround ourselves by givers and not takers. People who are going to support us. People who believe in us. People who are going to build us up, not take us down. And then measure the progress. Bank the successes by writing things down. And feel success and believe in yourself. Only you will know when you're successful if you recognize it. So start feeling that success and start believing in yourself. Believe in yourself the same way that we have to believe in the fact that we are part of the universe, and the energy inside us is the same energy in the universe. Even saying that and hearing that is like, isn't that mad, Ted? But it makes you feel better because it gives you potential and possibility. And that potential and possibility is what you'll move forward with. I don't know what time I've done this in at all, but I've talked. Okay? Told you loads here. I'll be out there doing a few more career coaching sessions. I met some brilliant people this morning, by the way. I really enjoyed the sessions this morning. I get so much energy out of people. I really feed off the energy that's here today. I mean, I can't believe the privilege it is to be here and meet so many brilliant people. And it is brilliant people you get in a room like this. I would love to connect with anybody who wants to connect, by the way. I have a website, which is myname.com, which seems very arrogant, but I couldn't think of a better name. Okay? It's just my name. That way people can find me and I can find it myself. Or you can follow me on Instagram as well, Stephen Naughton Coaching. And sometimes I do the podcast, sometimes I do funny pictures, relevant to careers, not just funny pictures of cats. And sometimes I write blogs and stuff like that. But please do connect with me because I love talking to people and connecting with people because it gets me out there in the universe.